The restart starts and ends, and after that, those restrictions do not apply. Let's take a quick review. Article 1. For any jump ball, each jumper must have both feet within their semicircle. That's what this rule outlines. Article 2. When the official is ready and until the ball is tossed, non-jumpers must not move onto the center restraining circle, change position around the center restraining circle, and we're going to get more on that later. Teammates may not occupy adjacent positions if an opponent wants that spot. Article 4, the toss must be excellent. It should be perpendicular to the floor and go between the players and equidistant from the sidelines. Article 5, until the ball is touched by one or both jumpers, non-jumpers must not have either foot break the plane of the center restraining circle cylinder or take a position in any occupied space. Article 6, the toss ball must be touched by one or both of the jumpers after it reaches its highest point. If the ball contacts the floor without being touched, we should re-jump. And the restriction on jumpers. Article 7, neither jumper shall touch the tossed ball before it reaches its highest point. B, leave the center restraining circle or their semicircle until the ball has been touched. C, catch the ball before the jump ball ends or touch the ball more than twice. Article 8 describes when the jump ball ends. With any of the restarts, we have to know when it starts, when it ends. A jump ball begins when the official releases the ball for the toss and ends when the ball contacts a non-jumper, contacts the floor, contacts an official, or contacts the backboard or basket. That is when a jump ball ends. As with all restarts, when the restart begins, a special set of rules that only apply to that restart come into play. The restart starts and ends, and after that, those restrictions do not apply. So obviously we have to know when a jump ball starts and when a jump ball ends. Here's the key scenario that we need to know to fully understand jump ball scenarios. There's a case play, 6.3.2. And it describes certain circumstances for non-jumpers. The referee is ready to toss the ball to start the game. A1, who was on the center restraining circle, backs off of the circle. B1 moves onto the center restraining circle into an unoccupied spot. B2 moves off the circle and goes behind A2 and is within 3 feet of the circle. B3 moves off the circle and about 5 feet and moves around and behind A3 and A4 who are occupying spaces in the circle. So this is a really good, sampling of things that non-jumpers can do, right? The jumper restrictions are pretty straightforward. Can't touch it more than twice, can't catch it before the jump ball ends, has to stay in their semicircle until the ball is touched. All of those things are very straightforward. It's the non-jumpers that can confuse us, right? So understanding what non-jumper restrictions are. So if we look at this scenario here, and we sort it into what is legal and what is not legal. It's legal for a player who's on the center circle prior to the jump to back off of the circle. That movement is always legal. It's not legal for a player to move onto the circle, but they can move off. And then D, that's the critical one. B3 moves off the circle about 5 feet and moves around and behind A3 who are occupying spaces on the circle. This is legal movement. This player moves off of the circle and moves behind 2 players who are on the circle. As long as their movement does not occur within 3 feet of the circle, then that movement is legal. So let's look at the other 2 plays that are illegal by rule. B1 moves onto the restraining circle into an unoccupied spot. It is illegal for non-jumpers to move onto the circle. B2 moves off the circle and goes behind A2 and is within 3 feet of the circle. That movement is illegal. You can't move into somebody else's spot or behind that player and be within 3 feet of the circle. The 3 feet restriction is really critical to understanding the rules. So what I want to do is I want to take a look. Here's a simple jump ball scenario, right? Who's legal and who's not legal in this scenario? So we have these two players here, player 1, player 2. A lot of officials look at these two players and they say one player cannot be behind the other player. What we have to understand is that's only true during the 3-foot ring around the center circle. That's the only situation where players are not allowed. In this instance, these players are not within that area. This action here, legal. This positioning here, legal. This positioning here, it's close to on the circle. Let's take a look. If we add the circle in, those two players are close. You could say that they are on the circle if you wanted to. I wouldn't begrudge you that. All right, so in this situation, which non-jumpers need to have any restrictions on their movement? Okay, that's the other thing. We have their position. Are there any restrictions on their position? Can they be any combination of these players in this scenario? They are all legal. Unless you are within that 3-foot circle, you are legal. You can run around, you can stand on your head, you can sprint up and down the court. Your movement has no restrictions, except a player may not move onto the circle. Okay, so just before the jump, one of the players in white thinks, okay, they're going to tap it back to the player in black, so I'm going to run onto the circle and steal the tap from up close. Illegal by rule. Okay, let's look at some other scenarios. Now look at this scenario. This is a high school game, right? All of these players are subject to the restrictions of players being within the circle. So our opponent cannot step in front of a player because they are in an occupied space. Okay? Very important to understand. This situation is going to be very different from a situation where the players are 20 feet from the center circle.